Welcome, everyone. Just getting started here. Please introduce yourself and your organization. We'll give a couple more minutes to let people sign in. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining us. A couple more minutes. Please introduce yourself if you haven't. We're just making sure that people have time to join in. One more minute, folks. Thanks for your patience. We are expecting a fairly large audience, so I want to make sure that people have time to get situated. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. I'm Dora Wong, and I'm one of the Nonprofit Net board members. Today's nonprofit Zoominar is Promises and Pitfalls of AI for Fundraising. Whether this is your first time attending a nonprofit Zoominar or your 10th, we welcome you. Nonprofit Net is a trusted leader with an over 20-year, very rich history of offering expert-led free seminars on critical management strategies for nonprofits in the greater Boston area. To keep our Zoominars open to everyone without charge, we need your financial support. We have expenses to bring each session to you, so we hope you'll consider supporting us with a suggested donation of $10 or $20. We'll be sending you a link to our donation page throughout our Zoom chat and during the seminar. Thank you in advance. At the end of the Zoom session, we'd appreciate your feedback on today's program. It helps us plan our future programming, and it's important to get the feedback back to our presenters as well. Today, we're excited to welcome as presenter Anne Hager of Fundraising Levers. Anne specializes in working with organizations without development staff. Welcome, Anne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to share my, I made a mistake. I'm going to share my slides as a background so that you can both see me and the slides and follow along that way. But I have to download them in a specific format. So that's what I downloaded them in a PDF format, and I need them in PowerPoint. So give me 1 second. If it doesn't work, you will not see me on screen at the same time, but that's fine. Okay, I think it doesn't work. Let me share my screen just like that. Okay, here we go. So, all right. Can you see my slides? Thumbs up? Okay, yes. Perfect. Okay, welcome everyone. I was excited to see so many familiar names. And we are going to discuss promises and pitfalls for your fundraising and the specific role that AI is going to play. And the number one question that I get, I have spoken extensively about the topic. So I presented at AFP Massachusetts, the annual conference. I presented at the MNN conference. I hosted several webinars. And by far, the number one question that I get is, I want to use AI, but I do not know what to use it for, right? So here in the nonprofit sector, we are oftentimes faced with wearing multiple hats, never having enough time to do all the things that we would like to do. And of course, AI can be so appealing to actually take off some of those tasks from our overflowing to-do lists. But then finding the time to find out what to exactly use it for and how, that can be a very daunting task. And that's what I want to help you today with. I want to help you figure out how to use AI, what to use it for, and most importantly, which risks to consider. Because typically what happens is I want to use AI, but I'm also pretty worried about all the risks. What if my staff gets the feeling they're going to be replaced? Or what if our grant maker notices that we used AI to generate a proposal? What if it sounds canned? What if we have a data leak because one of our staff might have used it, but not considered that they cannot put personally identifiable information in ChatGPT, right? So there are a ton of risks to consider. So we will address that too. Okay, so I want to briefly come back to, what specific perspective I have and what I do in my work, in my day-to-day work. So I'm based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I know many of you will be based in the greater Boston area, but I know that these webinars attract audiences from all over the country. And so my specific background is that I used to be an executive director, and I did not have any staff, not even to mention fundraising staff. We got funded through federal grants, which I wrote the applications for. And when I came to the US, I had to learn how to fundraise because it was so critical here. And it wasn't easy. I actually made a few mistakes along the way. And that prompted me to now help executive directors without fundraising staff who are also not entirely comfortable with that fundraising role that executive directors often have to take on here, especially if they don't have staff, because we just said many nonprofits don't have the budget to actually hire a specialist to do these things. So that's my specific background, right? So having to learn fundraising from scratch, not feeling super comfortable with it, but also knowing that it's just overwhelming what you have to do as an executive director to keep the organization afloat. So my mission, therefore, is to help executive directors become more effective. With that being said, I welcome everyone and every perspective. I know we have, people from the whole gamut, from volunteers to board members to executive directors. So everyone is welcome. Every perspective is welcome. I'm just mentioning that because that is my perspective. And yeah, so I actually was an early adopter of AI because I immediately saw the potential in it. And I was actually surprised that that happened because I'm typically not a tech person, right? So let's give you an example. My kids have this robot. You can program that robot. They are 5 and 6 years old. And I honestly do not know how it works. I could ask them. I could figure it out. That's not the problem. But I'm just not someone who's getting excited about tech, right? And but AI, it was actually my husband who got me hooked on it. He's at MIT. He's very prone to understanding tech tools, and he got me hooked on it. And before I knew it, once I had understood how the general principle work, I was able to create such benefit not only from myself but also helping my clients to implement these tools and harness the potential that come along, right? The productivity gains, right? But if you notice in my last bullet point, I said, I'm helping executive directors become more effective. So there is a big difference between efficient, which would be what AI can do for you, and being effective, which is knowing what to do. So that's a very important differentiation that I would like to come back to over and over again in this presentation, because doing the wrong things faster is not the whole point, right? So that's what we need to be very mindful of. But we will get to that. All right. So now you know my perspective. My background is in organizational development. So that's the perspective that I have, right? So I'm looking more at the big picture, and not because fundraising lives in a system, right? In an organization. An organization is an organism, right? You can even hear it in the word itself. So even if you have an amazing fundraising machine or really get AI to work, if your operations and the system in the background is not well set up, you are not going to be successful, right? That's the whole point about efficient and effective. All right, so now that's enough about me. So let's jump into today's program. So what we are going to cover today, first, we're going to discuss the role of AI. So what can AI do? What can AI not do for us? Second, we are talking about what I already mentioned, which risks to consider. And of course, not only the risks, but also what to do about them. How can we mitigate those risks? And finally, I want to walk you through some practical use cases so that for those of you who might have not have that much experience or not even opened a tool like ChatGPT, to get an idea of how that works, right? What are the 1, 2, 3 steps that I need to do in order to make ChatGPT or any other large language model work for me? So that's what this is all about. I'll also give you an overview of a few tools which I have seen that people use. But as you might have noticed, for me, it's really not about the tool. It's about what you do with it, right? So before you get into, oh, what are all these tools? You need to understand, what do I want? ChatGPT, Gemini, the tool, what do I want the tool to use? So you need to ask first, what is my use case? Before you go out and search for the tool, right? It's about what to do, not how to do it. So, but we'll get to there. That's just, a look ahead at what we are going to cover today. All right, so if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I will occasionally check, if there are any questions. And there will be enough time for question and answer too. So I want to make this interactive as well, because I know that there can be a lot of questions, right? All right, so let's jump right in with our first oh, wait, before I forget. So Dora already mentioned she's going to send out the recording, right? So if you want to have the slides and the prompts and all the references that I'm going to use throughout this presentation, you can get them with this QR code, or you can also get them via this link. So I'll send out an email later today with a little cheat sheet that includes all the links and the slides of this presentation, but you will definitely get your recording, right? Okay, so that's the link. So let's jump right in. What are we going to cover today? The role of AI in fundraising is our first topic. And I want to walk you through a little case study to make what I just mentioned about the what and the how and being efficient versus being effective actually could play out in the real world. So this is a fictional case study, but I'm absolutely sure it has happened like this. So this is our case study. Here's nonprofit Bob. As you can see, he's pretty overwhelmed with all the things that are on his plate. He has board meetings, obviously. He has programs to run. There is a strategic plan that is somewhere on the shelf and that he really needs to get on top of. Tons of meetings, of course, because it's all about meetings, right? Talking to people, networking. Email always overflowing, because there's always this one staff member that you have an issue with, or that, needs some work. And then there is also your annual event coming up. So nonprofit Bob is really, really busy. And on top of that, he has so many grants to write because he doesn't have any fundraising staff. So what happens next? He reads a newspaper article, right? We have all seen these articles. MIT study, ChatGPT increases productivity for human workers. So this specific article actually highlights that that the two sample groups, there were two sample groups in this case, or in this study. And one of them had ChatGPT to work to execute a writing task, and the other group did not have ChatGPT at their disposal. And what turned out was that the group that used ChatGPT wasn't only faster, it also created better results. So you can imagine Bob is immediately intrigued and says, okay, I need to work with ChatGPT to get me over this hump because I'm really drowning. It's also year end. All right. So Bob gets really busy. He uses ChatGPT and writes a ton of grant applications. However, 12 months later, he still has no money. So now I would like to hear from you. What do you think happened? Again, he found out ChatGPT can make me not only faster, it can also produce better results. He gets busy. He writes all these applications, sends them out. But 12 months later, he still has no results. What happened? I would love to hear. And there's no right or wrong answer, right? This is a fictional case study. So I would just like your ideas or your fears maybe, right? Okay, Sue says he did not edit. So he did not modify the proposals to his work and his mission. He wasn't strategic, Shelley. Alan, grants did not focus on the kind of things the funder cared about. He didn't choose the prospects well. Priscilla says he did not personalize his grants, show enthusiasm for the grant, and did not research which grants matched his mission. Any other ideas? No cultivation, says Alan. Deborah says the grant application must be tailored to each grant. What are their goals, their outcomes, their targets? Right. Okay, so I think by now we have an idea, and I think it could be any and all of these reasons, right? So that is actually to come back to the story, right? When I came to the United States and I wrote lots of successful applications to federal grant makers. And if you know anything about federal grant writing, it's all about the RFP and whether you match the criteria, right? There is no personal relationship. It's basically pay for service, right? So that's, and I was really good at it. Actually, at one point, the grant maker reached out to me and asked, can they use my application to show it to other organizations so that they use the same structure because they liked my application so much. So I knew what I was doing, but when I came to the US, it did not work, right? Because here I was responsible for applying for grants with private foundations. And here, exactly. So what many of you said, right? Here it's all about the relationship and the strategy behind it. You need to really understand what the grant maker's mission is in order to formulate a grant proposal that is going to resonate with them. And that is not enough. You need to, absolutely, of course, I know there are cases where it's just not possible, right? We all know these grant makers that do not take any meetings. But ideally, you would have to build a relationship with the grant maker in order to be successful. So I think all of this can be true, right? Because it's a case study, so there is no right or wrong answer. But yes, it's about the strategy. It's not about getting the grant written. It's about how you approach the process, right? So that is one of the risks. And I mean, as you remember, right now we are discussing the question, what's the role of AI? The role of AI is to help you as the human to do the things that you do faster. That does not replace you as the human. Or to say it differently, and I'm sure you've heard that because that is like a quote that has been going around for for quite some time, AI is not going to replace humans, because humans, you know, we are the ones who make the decisions and understand the strategy and the approach that we need to take. But humans using AI are going to replace humans not using AI, because those humans are going to be way more efficient than those that are not using AI. And I would say fundraising is competitive at the end of the day, right? And so organizations who know how to leverage AI tools in a good way, right? We also heard some of you mentioned, so maybe the grant proposal was not edited, or they did not personalize these grants, right? So yes, that is still a risk, right? So you can know what you do and leverage AI and still do it in the wrong way. So you still need to know how to use AI, but AI is not the answer, right? The answer is knowing what you do, and then knowing how to work the tools so that you get the results that get you to the goal that you have. All right. So the role, I always think of AI tools as assistants, right? So if you want to understand where does AI come in within my nonprofit fundraising operations, think of them as an assistant, right, or an intern. So they are very capable. Maybe they are going to graduate school, but they cannot replace you because you have decades of experience, and they just don't have this experience and perspective. They can do the thing that you tell them to do, but they cannot assess whether that is the right or wrong thing, because that is where your experience comes in. So I like that analogy to really understand what is the role of AI. Okay. Well, here's another way to think about it, right? So this is a model that I adapted from Edgar Schein. You probably know Edgar Schein. He was at MIT, and he developed this model of organizational culture. So at the top, you see what an organization is doing, or that's the execution of writing grant proposals, or let's say asking for corporate sponsorships, whatever. So that's the execution, right? On the surface, you have the strategy, which informs the execution. And the strategy is guided by culture. As you remember, probably Edgar Schein was the one who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And what did he also say? He also said, culture is the way we do things around here, right? So there is a lot under the surface, which is very relevant to inform your execution, right? The execution, again, that's where AI comes in, doing the thing, but how to do it, why to do it, that is where humans come in. So that's my point, exemplified or visualized in this visual. All right. So we discussed the role of AI in fundraising, right? It's on the execution. It's not the strategy. It's also not what should make up your culture. But your culture is going to inform how you use AI. So next, which risks do we need to consider? And to start with that, again, I would love to hear from you. What are your biggest concerns? So what are your biggest concerns using AI tools? I know many of you already shared questions up ahead, and thank you so much for that. But we would like to hear some more voices, and if you maybe by now you have some big concerns about any of the things that we talked about.
Oh, Anna, there is Shakira has a question. She raised her hand.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Shakira.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this amazing talk. I know one of my main concerns, I'm a counselor for youth in my organization, Act Lawrence Inc., where we financially empower low-income citizens to seek financial freedom through financial literacy and home buyership and education. And one of our struggles is using AI to sound genuine. Again, my team's biggest concern is that AI can't sound genuine, and also using AI as the concern of using AI is we'll lose the opportunity for us ourselves to get better at telling our story. Because one of the things with writing a proposal is that us ourselves as the writers are getting more and more skilled and we're doing more practice, but also to your point, it just takes so much longer. And a lot of times we hear ourselves repeating and copying, pasting from other proposals we have made in the past. So concern being AI is not genuine enough. And also the fact that whatever within the AI system, you always get the disclaimer that no information is private, and that you, technically speaking, the same responses that we're asking AI to provide us, what's to say they aren't providing those same responses to another organization who's using AI for the same reasons?
Right. Okay. So it's all. Thank you so much, Shakira, for this question, and I'm gonna get to that. I hope your question will be answered by the end of this section of the talk. If not, feel free to post in the chat or follow up with me after the talk. Right. So you will. I'm sure Dora is gonna send out my email. I'm happy to answer any questions that you still have after we are done. So thank you so much. So what I heard is how to make AI sound genuine and how to still set yourself apart, given that probably a lot of organizations have, in the meantime, gotten the hang of ChatGPT and how to use ChatGPT to answer questions in a grant proposal or tell your story, right? Okay, so we will get to that. Thank you so much. Okay, so Priscilla had a similar concern. Penny says trusting the content is a concern. AI has helped me in the past with social media posts. Great, that's awesome, Erin. Okay. Subscription AI claim not to put your own original content out in the AI sphere. Will AI be able to use the same terminologies, phrases, and words that are used in the RFP? For example, in many federal grants that are based on scores, we have to use exact words and match the language of the RFP to get the points. Will AI be able to do that? I see. Okay, great questions. And I'm pretty sure I'll be able to answer all those questions with what I already prepared. But again, if there's anything that is still open, let me know. All right, so let's get started with some of the risks that I have heard over the time that I have been, working on AI and given plenty of talks on the topic and kind of have an idea of, where everyone is at and some of the risks that are involved. So misattribution is one of the big concerns. So that goes back to basically a lot of times I hear nonprofit leaders say, I asked ChatGPT for a specific, I asked a specific question and I got an answer and the answer was just plain wrong, or, ChatGPT hallucinated is, what many folks say. My sister even said, she was writing some sort of paper for her college studies. And she said it just made up a theory that just doesn't exist, but it sounded so coherent that she actually trusted that this is right. So misattribution is, of course, a big risk. So what can we do about it? Of course. And I think that would be my answer to some of you here in the chat. How do I know that what ChatGPT, I'm just using ChatGPT. There are many LLMs out there, but I'm just using ChatGPT as, the example. You need to fact check everything. Just like you would, coming back to the analogy of having an intern, you would not send anything to a grant maker that your intern wrote without double checking it, right? So fact checking is super important. Meaning treat AI as an assistant, as an intern. What I would also say is, so these large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they, until recently, have not provided any references. So why is ChatGPT, etc., saying this? Where do they take this information from? Now, many LLMs are actually changing that and provide references. But to be on the safe side, if you want to do an AI-assisted search, I know Google has recently integrated AI-assisted searches, but there are specific search platforms, and they are in the handout that I'm going to send out if you're interested in that. There are also a few tools that I'm going to highlight at the end. Perplexity is a search tool which is specialized in answering your question, but also referencing where they got their answer from. So you can literally click the link and see, that's why they are saying that. And then you can decide, okay, that's, again, human discernment. Do I trust this source or do I not trust this source? And then it's up to you. Do I take this, snippet of text that the AI tool generated, or am I not going to trust it? So you need to fact check and treat AI as an assistant rather than a genius, right? All right, privacy concerns. Privacy concerns are real, right? So what if some sort of proprietary information is gonna leak into the system and being used by others, right? That's a major concern. I hear that especially in the grant writing space, but also in the individual donor fundraising space. And the answer is, of course, do not ever share any personally identifiable data or any sort of confidential data. Do not put any sort of this data into a generative AI tool. The second thing that I would encourage you to do is to read the privacy policies of the tools that you are using. So ChatGPT has a way to opt out of your content being used. It's in their privacy policy. It's also included in this handout. So it is possible to opt out. But the question, again, that's where our discernment comes in. Do we want to trust this? I do not trust this per se. I do not put any personally identifiable data in any tool because it's just too risky for me. I do not want to ruin my reputation. I do not want to hurt anyone's privacy. So I do not trust it, even if the privacy policy says either this is HIPAA compliant. There are HIPAA compliant tools out there. But I do not trust it. So I don't do it. I would not recommend doing it. So that's the answer to the privacy concerns. Then a question that I often get is eroding trust, right? So that is, I think, also what Shakira was alluding to earlier. How do you still sound genuine, or how can you still, use AI while still maintaining a personal relationship and a personal tone in your communications? Because, I mean, what is probably happening already is, again, as we mentioned, a lot of organizations are using AI to generate their annual appeal, to write personalized letters to their donors. So how can you make sure that you are still, maintaining that personal relationship and not hurt the trusting relationship you might have with your grant makers and with your donors? The answer is use AI to enhance relationships. It's not going to, only because you can write very personalized letters does not mean that you should not call up your donors and ask them how they are. And, what's been new, what are news and what do they care about these days? And secondly, so what I mean with that is use AI to enhance your relationships, right? So you can create way more personalized letters, for example, but that doesn't mean that you never call them up, right? So it's still a personal relationship. AI can enhance that personal relationship, but it cannot replace it. And then being transparent is also a big issue, obviously. So again, here I would come back to the assistant because I get this question all the time, right? So should I use AI? Should I disclose that I used AI? And I would always answer to that. My number one answer to that is always, if you would mention that your assistant or your intern helped with the creation of this blog post, then mention that, right? So Beth Cantor, for example, for those who know her, she's a speaker, consultant. She's been in the tech space, nonprofit tech space. She's been around for decades. And she she always mentions that AI helped enhance this blog post. It's still her intellectual property, but she used AI to enhance it, right? So yeah, so that's how you could handle or mitigate the eroding trust. So let me go back to the questions or to the chat to see if I missed anything. If you put the RFP into the AI and tell it to use the words it can, exactly, Christine. I'm sure you are answering to oh, I do not know how to pronounce your name, Nargis. Yeah, so exactly. You can put the RFP into the AI, so you can give very specific instructions, right? That's also going back to Shakira. You can personalize in telling ChatGPT or whichever tool you use. You can tell them in which sort of tone or voice to write. There are even generators out there who analyze your writing, create a prompt from it, and then you can use this prompt to tell ChatGPT, please write this proposal in this or that prompt, tone or voice. So yes, it is possible to personalize everything. Does AI share my content with others, others' content for similar documents? So you can ask the same question several times. You will never get the same answer, right? So the information you input is going to be used, but it's not going to give the exact same one-on-one, one word-by-word response to someone else. That is not possible. Thank you, Dora, for clarifying. LLM, large language model. Exactly. Perplexity, is it free? Yes, it's free. Thank you, Dora. Okay, Nargis, okay. What are some examples of tone or voice you can tell ChatGPT or other LLMs? So what so my tone, to boil it down, if I don't have the time or bandwidth or think it's not worthwhile to create a big prompt about how I write, I usually say friendly and professional. That usually gets it right. Friendly and professional, because that's my tone. So yeah, but you can play around with it and you can analyze your own writing, right? Upload a few, let's say, social media posts and say, what is the tone and voice of this social media post? Then you say, okay, so now create a social media post about this and that topic for this and that organization and use that sort of tone, right? Okay. Alan said, thank you. And again, I can include that. Let me include that because it's a question I always get and it seems so top of mind. And it must be top of mind, right? Let me include one of those prompt generator tools in, style analysis tools into the cheat sheet so that you have that. All right, so that's where GPTs come in, right? So you can create your own GPT. So there are literally style analysis GPTs out there. I'll find it. All right, so now we talked a lot about the risks, and thank you for all those questions. I hope I was able to address all of them. So how can you mitigate all of those risks without trying to play whack-a-mole? And the answer is, please, if you are planning to implement AI tools or use them, or if you know that staff already uses AI tools, please adopt an AI use policy. And I want to put that right in here in the chat, actually, because it's such a critical topic. This, so the roundtable technology has an AI acceptable use policy. And I found that very, very helpful. So it clarifies, in which contexts you use it, how you use it, and it aligns the entire organization on how do we handle AI. And that helps you be on the safe side if there are ever any questions, right? So it's also a great way to actually open up the conversation, not only with staff, but also with your board to understand, okay, we want to get to the next level. We want to be more efficient and effective. So how can we get there? And the adoption of such a policy can actually help you have that discussion in a structured way, right? So you want to be on the safe side and not play whack-a-mole trying to eliminate all of those different risks that might be there. So that AI use policy helps you walk through all the different risks and decide for your organization what you're going to do about it. All right, so that is my call to action for you, because again, it's about making organizations more effective on a general sense than just, you know, trying to implement this one tool or solve this one issue. It's about the health of the entire system. All right, so let's get to the last part of our program today, which is practical use cases. Since I always get this question, I want to walk you through a very specific example that exemplifies the step-by-step process to create any sort of written content. So that's the number one question that I get. Can you show me, or how does that actually work? So I want to help you out with that. Let me stop sharing for a minute and then open up Claude so that you can follow along as I create a custom. Hi, Joanna. Thank you for joining us today. So I want to walk you through. Oh, give me 1 second. I want to walk you through a specific use case. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so these days I prefer to use Claude over ChatGPT. And so you probably have seen, if you have used any sort of AI, generative AI tool, like Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, they all look the same, right? Let me pull up Gemini. So here's Gemini. Here's ChatGPT, and here's Claude, right? So it always has this text box, and then, you know, and then you have your personal assistant, right? So what we're gonna do is we are creating a customized letter to a foundation. So where are we gonna start? So number one step is always to give instructions. I prepared some instructions so that you can follow me along. So here I would give the instruction, right? Give instructions and context. What do you want this tool to do, right? Just like you would do with an assistant. You would give instructions, like what do you actually want to get done, and why. So I wrote here, hi ChatGPT, you're a master grant writer in the nonprofit sector, and I would like your help to write a grant application. First, I'll provide some information about the grant maker. Then I will provide some information about my nonprofit organization. Do you understand? So now we'll see. Yes. Oops. Can you see how Claude calls me out for calling it ChatGPT? Well, caught in the act. So still Claude is very happy to assist. Let's please go ahead and provide the information about the grant maker and your nonprofit organization. So here is my grant maker, right? The Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation, you might know them. They are a grant maker. I forget, I think they're somewhere in the Midwest. And they provide funding to small organizations. So if we now pull up the grant guidelines, right? Application guidelines. So general considerations, some background on the foundation, application requirements, summaries, instructions, questions. Okay, so what is the relevant information we have here? Okay, so letter of request attachment. So let's just copy all of these this information. Let me see whether they have a more general overview of what they do. Exactly. Okay, so let's put that in here too, because that seems relevant. That is kind of their mission, right? They award grants to organizations for which a small amount of money might make a large difference. So I'm gonna say here is some information on the grant maker. So copy paste. Then I also want to copy paste the application guidelines. All right, copy paste. I usually put it in quotation marks just to let Claude know that we are that this is the chunk of text. And here are the guidelines for grants. Paste. Done. Okay, so thank you for providing the detailed information about the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation and their grant application guidelines. Okay, great. So to proceed with crafting your grant application, I'll need some specific information about your nonprofit organization. So name and mission, specific program, amount of funding, brief description, information about the population, and so on. So what makes us unique? So I prepared here boilerplate language by the Big Sisters, Big Brothers national organization. This is all information that I got from their website, all publicly available information. There's no privacy concern here. And as Claude asked me to, I have the mission, vision, organization overview, a program example, some outcomes, right? So whatever you would have in your boilerplate document. So now I'll go back to Claude and say, here is some some background information about my organization. Again, I copy pasted. If it's longer chunks, Claude usually puts it as an attachment. So done. So now Claude says, thank you for providing that detailed information about, wow, it's already doing the thing for me. Let's go back up. So I said, here is my information, right? So where are we at? Claude says, thank you for providing that detailed information. I understand that you focus on supporting US-based nonprofit organizations, blah, blah, with where a small amount of funding could make a significant impact. Okay, so now to proceed with crafting your grant application, I'll need some specific information. Wait, I did that. Okay. Okay. Funding request. We'll need to determine an amount between $1,000 and $20,000. I forgot to enter that, right? That constraint or that restriction. For now, let's assume $15,000, but we can adjust this based on your specific needs. So that's just one example where typically these days it changes all the time, right? I do prefer Claude over ChatGPT these days because Claude is just thinking ahead more than ChatGPT. So I really like that it caught that fact that I did not specify how much money I'm going to ask for. Okay, so it also says, okay, I implied that sort of, that I was going to use it for that one program that I highlighted here in my boilerplate, right? So that's the one program that I highlighted here. Okay, and here I've created an outline for your grant application, including the 2 required summaries and a structure for the letter of request. The outline adheres to the guidelines provided by the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation. Okay, so would you like me to elaborate on any part of this outline or begin drafting the full letter of request? Also, please confirm if the $15,000 funding request is appropriate or if you'd like me to adjust the amount. So you can see this is very efficient. Now, the question is, of course, is it effective? And for that, we need to, of course, go into the summaries and see whether we like it or not, right? As I mentioned, do not ever send anything out that you did not fact check because you're the human, you are responsible. So you need to make sure that this is actually what you wanted. Okay. So to walk you through the 1, 2, 3 steps, right? So you provide context, you give constraints. So I provided the context. This is the organization. This is the foundation. You provided the constraints. Constraints in this case are, okay, this is how the summary needs to look like. This is how the request needs to look like. This is how the letter needs to be formatted. That was all in the application guidelines. So these are the constraints. And now the critical last step, that is the iteration and the questioning. So that's where I would say, okay, if I do not like the language, I would say, okay, please write in our organization's language. And this is what we typically sound like. But what I always do, even if I'm happy with the voice, I always ask to red team it or to apply inversion. So why would this foundation not fund my proposal? So let's ask. Right? So basically applying critical thinking, having Claude or any sort of tool assume the role of a, of a black hat. Why would a foundation deny this request? There could be several reasons. The scale of the organization. The foundation states they aim to support organizations for which a small amount of money might make a large difference. Big Brothers and Big Sisters is a large national organization, right? I think that is it immediately caught that one piece, which is really critical in this context. Funding amount. It's higher than the typical funding amount. Lack of specificity. Exactly. We did not provide a budget, if you remember. We did not say we want these $15,000 to go to this specific purpose. Geographic. So you get the idea, right? We don't need to walk through every single detail here. Let me actually go back to my slides here, just so that we don't have to switch around between the different tools. Where were we in the presentation? So adopt an AI use policy. We walked through practical use cases. I would love to hear from you. And what are some use cases that you found very helpful? I always find that very helpful to hear from you all what you have been able to achieve with AI tools, right? So how are you working with these tools, and what do you do with them? Okay, so if you want to share in the chat, I think that would be helpful for all of us. Just to iterate again what I mentioned, the 3 steps to effective prompting are basically providing context. Who are you? I'm the executive director. I'm the grant writer. Specify the desired output. I want a grant application. And these are the constraints. This is what the grant application is supposed to look like, the length, right? We collectively probably spent decades just trying to fit into character limits, trying to fit our answers into character limits. Now we have an assistant who can help us do this easily. And then finally, iterate on and question the result, right? Apply critical thinking, not only your own critical thinking, but also have the tool itself apply critical thinking. So now Stephanie says, AI was able to identify what parts of the application were not clear. When you are so close to a topic, you cannot always see that. Correct. I wrote a lot of grant applications where I actually had an SOP where I walked myself through the typical mistakes that I made, right? So checklist. So did I check for this? Did I check for that? Okay. All right, so these are the 3 steps. And now, feel free to share a few more use cases from your organization. Meanwhile, in the last few minutes, here are some more, groups of tools. Again, it is not, and I want to come back to what I said at the beginning. It's not about the tool. Do not start with the tool. Start with the problem, and then use the tool that can help you with solving that problem. So Maggie says Perplexity has been really useful. Yeah, Perplexity is great. That's why I mentioned it as one of the research tools here. If you have more specific research or more academic research to do, I would use a tool like Elicit or Research Rabbit. So they actually, as you can see here, this AI tool is used to search, summarize, and extract data from over 125 million papers. So these are academic papers, right? Perplexity goes to Google and pulls things from Google. Elicit pulls from academic research papers. Then another group of tool that is super helpful is note-taking tools. And then all the tools that I already mentioned, Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT. All right. And if this was a lot, again, I invite you to download or request this this little cheat sheet that I compiled, where I'll also include, because again, this comes up all the time, this specific prompt writing generator. Yeah, so that's basically it from my end. I also have a special offer at this time because it's year end, and I know a lot of organizations are either looking for development staff or just never had a development staff. So if you're interested in getting some AI-powered support to understand, okay, what are the few things that we really need to get right in this year-end fundraising, feel free to reach out to me. There is also, when you click this link, you have the option to say whether you're interested or not in getting support during your year-end fundraising. Again, about identifying what are the biggest levers to get you to your year-end budget. So that's what I have to offer for you today. As a brief summary, in the last 2 minutes, this is, I said in the description of this webinar, I said, you're gonna know exactly what you need to do next. And what you need to do next, if you are interested in implementing AI in your operations, you will need to identify a use case. So the use case can be grant writing. The use case can be writing an annual appeal. The use case can be creating lots of social media posts that boost your annual appeal, whatever. So what is the use case? Then go out and adopt an AI policy so that you're on the safe side. And then again, it's all about systems and processes. Please have regular discussions about AI use in your organization so that you will be able to stay on the safe side as this field develops really quickly. All right.
We've got
yeah.
1 more minute. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you so much, Anna. This was a fantastic presentation. I know that I personally learned a lot and learned a lot of AI tools that I did not know about. So I'm very grateful. Before you leave, everyone, just a reminder that we'd like your feedback on today's program, and also that we would like to also ask for your support. We depend on the support from the community, and we hope that you'll be able to support us. You can use the QR code here and consider making a gift of $10 to $20. We look forward to seeing you again in October. We'll be updating everyone shortly with our program then. If you're available to stay on a bit, we welcome you to stay on. Anna, if you have time.
I do have to pick up my kids, but I'm happy to hang on for 5 minutes.
Real quick, if there are any messages, just checking the messages real quick. It looks like people are wrapping up. All right.
Yeah. Again, if you have any questions, I should probably put my email address here at fundraising.com. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. If you have any questions, again, I do have to go and run and pick up my kids, but if there is anything urgent, I'll follow up with you. Just copy my email.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.